call through Zoom. I'll get it all figured out. There's so much amazing technology, right, that's going on. So welcome to today's call, Friday, March 24th. Super excited about all the technology. And can't wait to share it all with you, right? It's tough having more than one obsession, by the way. Right, Jen? Jen's paint pouring. And I go, ooh. And I said that out loud last night, Jen, and Rob goes, no. and actually, and I said, well, I'll just do one. And he's like, yeah. He said, he's just like, you're just gonna do one course, study one course at a time. That's the rolling joke here is, right? Leo will say to me, so how many of your courses did you study this week? And not in judgment, but in actual like awe of the amount of information that I can like put through my brain. That is the positive plus side of having a neurodivergent brain, is the ability to do that. So, okay. Plus that's also in my human design, so right, on steroids. Yesterday we talked about some foundational business pieces. That was one of the messages that I shared with you. And so I just want to go back a little bit to start, I think, with that, and then be directed, of course, wherever we're supposed to go. So we talked about the foundational pieces of understanding who you serve, how you serve them, how you'll differentiate your message, what strategies you'll use, right, to work your business, to we'll say promote your mission. Notice the switch in language, not promote yourself, but promote your mission. I think that'll really resonate with everybody. And then enrollment, right? So for some people, enrollment will feel better than sales, right? So it's, again, we're working with our brain and the way that it processes information. So I like the word enrollment, right? Because I'm sharing my message, but a message and my mission and enrolling people into the different parts of my business, right? You can use words like connection calls, but that might be confusing if for me, the connection call would also work, because not every call needs to be about a sales call, right? It can just be like a call to connect. So in the world of knowing who you serve and how you serve them and how you can differentiate your message, there's like, I guess, there's 4 core pieces, right? So there's the who your ideal client is, and you might have like buckets of ideal clients, right? Because because there's different levels, right? So yeah, Sherry said, I loved when you said proclaim your purpose, right? Yeah, a few calls ago. So strategies for proclaiming your purpose. Thank you. I'm gonna write that down. See? So I have strategies. Perfect. Thanks for that, Sherry. So the core 4, and you're finding your ideal client, I'm talking about buckets of ideal clients. Because number 1, as a mission-driven, empathic entrepreneur, I think for a lot of us, it feels very limiting and focusing on what marketing people call niche, right? And so, but the positive side of that is that you can really tap into and tune into their problems, their pain, and how your product, how your service, how your purpose can help them. And then more than likely will be more than one of those, right? So one of the things that happened at Curves was when we first started Curves, Gary Haven, the founder, said, pick a really, well, the niche wasn't wide, but it was specific. It was women between the ages of 40 and 65 who had more than 5 pounds to lose, who didn't have a lot of time, who didn't want to be at a gym with men, and really didn't want to be at an all-women's gym either, because they didn't know what to do with the equipment and they felt really awkward. And what was important to them was community. And so all of our messaging was from that 40 to 65-year-old. All of the branding colors, right? Everything that we did was for that range. And so then, but what happens is, because word of mouth truly is often your highest form of advertising, referrals, word of mouth, the 40-year-old, right, would bring, maybe her mother was 70, or her grandmother who was 75, right? The 65-year-old, the 6-year-old might bring a granddaughter who was 25. So then all of a sudden the age really expanded, and we had like 25, probably we had some younger teenagers, right? 25 all the way up to 85. But we didn't focus on the 25 and 85, we focused on the core. So one way to look at your business is, who is your core message for? And then do that, and do that really well. And what I mean by do that and do that really well, it's an experiment. And so then when you feel like niching out a bit, right, then you can add, right? So it's not even niching out, but then you can add other ways, other ideal clients. But it's kind of pick one, what I say is pick one for at least 90 days. Like especially if you're targeting something specific, pick it for 90 days. Be married to it for 90 days. And then don't necessarily have to change your ideal client, but you'll, I think, massage it a bit. You'll maybe have a deeper understanding, of your target audience, ideal client, right? Because truthfully, we want to assist everybody. I mean, it's like everyone can benefit, which is true, from all the things that we do. But it will come down to who do you want to work with, right? That will be one question, for you, and B, maybe even more important right now, is who can you relate to, but also who can relate to you the most, right? And so when you're sorting that out, and I'm going to share with you the questions to ask yourself to sort that out. So I'm not going to leave you hanging. We won't have time, I don't think, to do that today, but I won't leave you hanging about how to do this. But so we'll do that, and shortly, because I think your message is so very, very important. And part of that is yesterday when I talked about, from a marketing perspective, like from that proclamation perspective, what makes you different is like what you stand for, right? And so one of the things that makes me different is I'm hearing a lot lately from some of the people that I follow, some of my mentors and guides, who talk about how we should never barter for our time, like do an exchange of services. And I understand what they're saying, because there's a lot of negative, lower density energy around a bartering of services, right? And so there's sometimes, though, if you can practice sacred economics, a sacred commerce, which for me is, there is not saying, well, this person charges $500 like an hour, let's say, and this person works and bakes pies for an hour, and that to make it like fair, there has to be $500 worth of pie every time they speak to that person. And if not, because that's how the current system is set up, if not, then there's resentment and anger. But what if the person who was charging $500 an hour just was excited to have pie because they couldn't bake the pie, and they were comfortable, or became comfortable with the value of our services isn't what we charge. So that's how I'm different. Everyone's like, know your value and charge what you're worth. And so, okay, let's just pause there. And there's that light side, right? That higher vibe side to that, and there's a lower vibe side to that. And there's like the shadow side, and there's like the ego, the I, which all might be the same. I'm just using different words. But let's just think about that for a moment. So here's where I'm different. I'm like, if I was charging what I was worth, my value, well then, that would be $1 million a year. Because I know that I have the capability to help people get to $1 million a year, if that's what they want, right? So my value, just like your value, is priceless, truly, right? Working with Karen, how can you put a price on health? What's your health work, right? So if you're a healer and you're facilitating that, right? So my point being, I understand what they're saying makes sense logically. If you have a lack of self-esteem and a lack of self-confidence and a lack of self-love, yeah, that makes sense to think about your value. But then I think we can all get to a place where we're rising in vibration and we go, I know what my value is, so I don't need to prove it by charging X amount of dollars. Right? My value of myself doesn't come from that, although all my mentors are saying that, and I'm like, nah, I don't agree with that. I even have a mentor, so that's because you don't really know your value. I'm like, actually, I really do know my value. That's why I'm saying this. I have a complete knowing, right? Knowing of my contribution to the world. So we can then take a look at that and go, okay, like, yes, in theory, that makes sense. And yes, I don't, it's like, don't get the farm away for free. And I'm like, well, why not? Why not? Right. And yes, I get it. Again, like, I can't go to my banker and say, I have all these pies for you, so I'm going to use pies to pay my mortgage. So that's why the importance of cash flow, that's the importance of it. I think there's room, though. Do we have to be so black and white? And it's not about bartering services, but it's like, if someone has something that of desire for you and you have a desire, right? And that desire works well, then as long as communication's open, that's the challenge. Because I do see over and over and over again, people getting really bitter when they do that. So I tell people, like, if you're going to do it with caution, and do it for a limited time. Right? It's like from this day to this date, and then it can be reassessed. So this started with that little kind of sidetrack rant, started with knowing your ideal client, being specific, right? And then moving into your messaging, which I will share the messaging methodology that I follow. Being clear with your offer would be the next. Now, this can be a tough thing, right? So an offer, so not what you charge per hour. If we could all kind of move away from that, right? And so what do you want to offer? So it's kind of like, one of my mentors years ago, he had a great example of this. Let me see if I can recall the data. So he was working, his name was David, and he was working with a naturopathic doctor. And he found himself with mercury poisoning, actually. It was really interesting. So this is actually, it's not funny, but this is why we should listen to ourselves. He was guided by one of his coaches to give up meat and go to strictly a fish diet. And he ate lots of fish because he ate lots of meat. His body, right, type, craved, desired meat. But his coach, guru, said red meat is really bad for you. So he went to fish, right? So anything fish, salmon, right? And because of the amount of meat and this where he was sourcing, where this food was sourced for, he ended up with a really heavy dose of mercury poisoning because there's a lot of fish that have mercury in it, right? Or raised in a not so cool environment. So he ended up being really, really sick. Went to this naturopath, and this naturopath put him on a mercury cleanse, and then had some appointments. And then every time he went back and forth, it was like, yes, here's what this costs, and we'll do this, and here's what it costs, and do this. So he felt in the end like he was being nickeled and dimed. And then he was recommended to go to this other naturopath. And so he went to this other naturopath who knew a little bit more, but not a lot more than this naturopath. So the one naturopath was about $12,000 a year, like by the time he like added what he was spending. And then this naturopath over here was $24,000 a year. It was double. But the difference was, he said the one on the left was just like, here you go, buy this and then go back. And then, okay, you go buy this and you come back, and you go buy this and come back. And then $24,000 guy was like very clear about what he wanted for results, like what David wanted, very clear about how he could help him with that. And it was double the price. And he did nickel and dime. And then he just said to him, here's what you get for 24,000, right? You get, and I think it was like, I'm just probably making up some of it, where I'm going to see you weekly. There's going to be a battery of tests that we do throughout the year. So it's a year program. I'm going to see you weekly for as long as we need to, right? So that more than likely will be 6 months, but that might be as little as 3. It might be as much as 9, right? And then you have access to me, right? Here's the email, here's the bonuses. When I do retreats, you're not going to have to pay retreats. I do 2 retreats a year. You're more than welcome to come. You'll have to pay for your own accommodation. And we went through this list of things, right? And so, and you'll notice when you've talked to me, I have similar structure, right? Because I thought that just makes sense to me, because like David said, his naturopath knew everything else he's going to need. There was like monthly massages included with it, and like it was all the things that he needed, because the naturopath was an awareness. You have this thing, in order to remove this thing, here's all the pieces that you're going to need. So part of this is understanding, moving from even packages to look at it as like kind of an offer. And you can call it a package, but as coaches, we're talking to you. It's like, do you want the bronze package? Do you want the silver package? But it's like, what if you can customize things? Absolutely. But what if you moved into a place in space where you had these offers? And so we'll talk about that as well somewhere in the near future. We won't worry about offers right now until we get kind of through the ideal client and the messaging piece, right? And then the last piece of that is, of course, the enrollment piece, or proclaiming your purpose, right? Inviting people to have conversation. So that's kind of like the core 4. But before any of that is your spiritual vision. So what do you really, really, really want? That's part of it. But how do you want to live your life is even a bigger question, right? So what changes do you want to proclaim? What's your big, hairy, audacious mission and vision? What do you see that you want to change in the world? What do you see that's broken that you want it to be different? And we start with that because everything falls into place when you proclaim, well, thanks for that reminder, right? When you proclaim your spiritual vision as well. Because if we're not in tune with that, then truly nothing else will come into fruition and nothing else will matter. So what happens is, the way that we're being taught is we build the business, and from the business, then we fulfill the mission. From the business, we fulfill the mission. That's backwards. We build the vision, and from the vision, the business is built. So my verbiage is build a life and use your business as a vehicle to that life. But to have that life, to build that life, you really need to know what your vision is. What do you really really want? So when we think about whether it's retirement or what's that proclamation? And when you can become clear of the life that you want, the lifestyle that you want, who you want around you, where do you want to live, right? What do you want to live in? Like, are you living in a tiny house, or are you living in a castle in Ireland, right? Are you living on the beach in a hut, or are you living on a lakefront property? Who's with you, right? Are you do you have more than one property? Like, my perfect world would be a place for Rob and I to be, right? And then a place where Leo can join us at any time, right? And a place where I can go into my own back cave and be by myself. I'd like to have my own place, right? So when I want to be alone, right, because that's part of my human design, there's a gate called 33, and part of the called the gate of radiant, like my radiant sphere is to actually be alone, to go like literally on top of a mountain somewhere and just like percolate on my own for a period of time, and have no little to no human contact, is in a perfect in my radiance sphere. So part of my spiritual vision is to create a space and place where I can go do that. I can just go hang out, right? And so and not wait, like I could do that now, right? So I go away for weekends, have a couple days on my own, like all of those things, so we can set up pieces of that spiritual vision now. But it's the spiritual vision that do I say should be, you have the opportunity to be the driver, right, of your business, and how you set that up. Because when we can work for our mission, right, when we're in tune with our mission, things will really, really unfold, right? And what will that look like for you then? So we'll start with the spiritual vision, right? And so if you're not clear about that, then I really encourage you to do this. So part of the spiritual vision is, you can ask yourself, who are you being in the world? So when your spiritual vision is fulfilled, who are you being in the world? Who are you becoming? Because we're on a path. So who are you becoming in your spiritual vision? And what is the change you're being called to bring forth? Right? So what is the change that you are being called to bring forth? Because that's part of your spiritual vision. It's kind of like what's broken in our industry. Maybe you're being called to change that part, to bring that forth. And so what does that look like for you, right? And really being clear about that particular piece of it. Because with clarity, then, excuse me, with clarity, then your next steps are being taken care of. Sorry, I'm gonna just give me a second here while I move a bit of energy. Oh, awesome! Thank you. There we go. One of you is really moving energy. I hope you're okay. If you're not, let me know, as my throat starts to close up. All my yawners will start yawning now. Sorry. Okay, here we go. All right. For those of you, some of the things that I do when I start moving energy, especially when I know it's not in mine, I will tap like my chest here. That sometimes help move. Yeah. Yeah. Is that you, Karen? Okay, thank you. Karen just said she did some work on her uncle. I'm working on Uncle Art now too. All right. And so once we have this clarity of vision, the steps unfold for us, right? That's what ends up happening, is that everything starts to unfold. Because we're so clear about the vision. And then we're working towards the vision, the purpose. we're not working for money. We're not working to pay our bills, right? Which is a lot of what happens, right? Because we're taught to that safety and security comes from money, and so we're taught that. So, all right, I think that's just that's the only message that we have for today. We'll continue on this trek, a little bit of mindset and a little bit of business, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Mwah. I'll see some of you later on today. Thanks, Karen. Bye.